Good afternoon. My name's Keith Mitchell. As you probably gathered, I'm not from around here. The weather, at least, is familiar. Anyway, I'm going to be talking to you today about something that I've had a lot of experience about, which is running internet exchanges. I hope that this information is useful or at least enlightening to you. I'm going to cover a few topics, just a little bit about myself, some basic principles of how do internet service providers interconnect with each other on the internet, a little bit about the history of internet exchanges, a little bit about the models for building internet exchanges, how they're operated, how they work technically and operationally. Talk a little bit about internet exchange security. I think there's some interesting topics there. How to set up your own internet exchange. And a little bit more, I think, particularly relevant to perhaps the audience here is some background about regional internet exchanges. A little bit of my background, summary. I've been doing this internet operations stuff for far too long. The current thing that I'm doing is running a body called the UK Network Operators Forum. It's very similar to NANOG, if you've come across that in North America, a British equivalent of that. What's new with me? Well, I've just moved to Cleveland, Ohio. I was good enough to get a job here, and now it's time for a change of scene. So here I am. Please do let me know if I use any phrases or say things in a way which isn't clear, either from a technical or cultural point of view. Internet interconnect principle. What happens at an internet exchange point? Basically, at your typical internet exchange, there will be a bunch of internet service providers who will have equipment, routers in the same building, which will be a data center, usually operated by a company that builds itself a co-location provider. Within that building, these ISPs connect together. Sometimes they will run a direct wire between them. Sometimes, more commonly, there will be a shared interconnect fabric, which is usually one or more Ethernet switches. They exchange routing information using BGP, Border Gateway Protocol. The exchange of the routing information leads to the exchange of traffic, and that's done on a bilateral basis. So pairs of ISPs will decide, we're going to here, we're going to exchange traffic, let's set up a BGP session. Sometimes the exchange operator who actually operates the cloud of Ethernet switches will be the same people that own the building and operate the building. Sometimes it'll be a different organization. The people that own the building, colo provider, they'll have lots of different customers, ISPs, carriers, content providers, people running portals, content distribution, name registries, all kinds of things. So what are the advantages of an internet exchange point? It's very simple. It's one place where you can connect everybody. So you run one big fat pipe to a central location. There's lots of other people do that. You get economies of scale. You don't have to route your traffic over lots of bilateral expensive circuits that go one to each of the other ISPs you need to exchange traffic with. In more detail, commonly the motivation for setting up an internet exchange is to keep the traffic within a region, so that within a country you don't have to go outside of that country and back in just to talk to somebody who's in the next city. Within a city you don't have to go over to Washington DC and back and talk to somebody who's just down your road. The numbers vary. But typically, anywhere between a fifth and a third of the traffic can be local. For some parts of the world, and Korea has actually got the biggest internet exchange in the world because they have a lot of local content that is of less interest to the rest of the world. What are the other advantages? Reducing your bandwidth cost. If you take that traffic off your expensive long-haul circuit, that frees up more capacity. It potentially reduces the bill to the upstream ISP that you're buying transit from. Local fatter pipe are cheaper on a local basis, so you've got more bandwidth to play with. You're not hopping through lots of indirect other routers or other locations, so it's very good for improving latency as well. There's economies of scale. As I said, the basis that internet service providers generally exchange traffic at an exchange is something called peering. I'll say a little bit more about that later, but the main motivation is it saves you money. And once you've got all these ISPs in the same place, then it starts to create other interesting things in that there's a competitive market for buying and selling access capacity, wholesale internet access, all kinds of things. So Peering is a very important building block of what makes the internet connect together. Two ISPs decide that I'm not going to buy or sell service from you, but we can both get advantages from having access just to each other's customers. So let's exchange traffic on that basis. And usually, unlike buying service from somebody, there's no money changes hands. And it's what's called settlement free. When two telephony operators interconnect, then the money tends to flow within the direction of who's making the one call to the other. Peering agreements between ISPs, generally there's no settlement. It's not unheard of, but generally there's no settlement when you're exchanging IP traffic. And it's about bartering perceived equal value. And you will quite often get the situation where a big ISP will say, well, I'm only going to peer with other big ISPs, and here's my set of rules for what is a big ISP. And they won't peer with the little guy, but the little guys will peer with each other, and there's a whole kind of food chain. Not billing the packets also keeps the commercial arrangement simple. You can quite often get a peering agreement on 2 or 3 pages, or it's quite often done on a gentleman's handshake basis. Other key principle is that of public interconnect. I refer to an IXP, Internet Exchange Point, throughout my discussion. More commonly in North America, they're called NAP. Easier to pronounce but less technically accurate, network access point. But when I say IXP or NAP, I mean exactly the same thing. The point here is that you have a single shared fabric that everybody's connected to. It's usually Ethernet. There are other technologies that work as well. But it creates an open medium in which many-to-many connectivity becomes possible. That doesn't mean that you have to exchange traffic with everybody else on the exchange. What it means is you have the possibility of doing so. Actually exchanging the traffic requires a bilateral agreement. Other models exist. I talked about private interconnect earlier, and I'll say a little bit more about transit shortly. Technologies, back when people first started doing this, 10 meg Ethernet was the most common thing. That was used to connect the ISP's routers to the switch. At the bigger exchanges, we had more than one switch. We used 100 meg FIDI. But usually most of these exchanges were one switch in one building. 6, 7 years ago, 100 meg Ethernet came along, pretty much superseded all the 10 meg and the FIDI. Few exchanges used ATM. Ameritech ran a big exchange in Chicago that was ATM based. I think was the most successful of these. But 1 gig Ethernet is now pretty ubiquitous. 10 gig Ethernet, a lot of the exchange operators were very much the bleeding edge of 10 gig, and there was some that was more painful than it needed to be. But typically it's used in the core of network, between the switches, between the sites. But at the bigger exchanges where they're pushing maybe 50, 60, 100 gig of traffic, the 10 gig is quite often used to connect the actual members to the exchange as well. That's scary because there aren't any technologies that are going to be a whole lot better than 10 gig anywhere obvious. And that's a separate story. One way of bodging around the 10 gig limit is to use things like WDM, MPLS, other kinds of bandwidth multiplying technologies. Gigabit Ethernet is good stuff. It's cost effective, it's high bandwidth, it's cheap, gives you more capacity than most users or SMEs might ever want to use. Very common now. It works between one rack and another over copper. It will work over metropolitan distances, tens of miles, kilometers. Most ISPs use it. It's almost universally used to connect switches together. And really, if you go out and buy a switch now, the price premium for a port that will do 1 gig over copper compared to 100 meg over copper is negligible. And there's some good vendors, there's some good products out there. Cisco, Extreme, Force10, Foundry are all doing state-of-the-art switches that will meet internet exchange requirements, no problem. So, a little bit about internet exchange history. Been plenty of ageist remarks in the other room earlier on already. But we first started doing links in London in 1994. 10 years later, for the 10th anniversary, we donated the switches to the Science Museum in London. So if you were doing your tourist thing in London and you go to the Science Museum, which is worth visiting in its own right, then up there in their Digitopolis exhibit, there's a Ethernet switch that I cabled and labeled in a glass case, and so therefore it must be history, I guess. That was quite an interesting experience. As I said, set up in 1994. Back then there were only 5 ISPs in the whole of the UK. I worked for one of them, Pipec. And literally there were 5 pipes out the country, and they all went to the US, and each one went to a different one. So if you were sitting in London connected to Demon and you want to send some email to your mate in Cambridge in PyPex, then literally it went from Demon across the Atlantic, across the May East Exchange in Washington, D.C. to UU, and then back down the pipe to PyPex. Obviously that was silly, and these were the days when we were paying maybe $100,000 a year for 128K of capacity. So you can imagine that we had a pretty strong incentive. Of course, we were all fiercely competing with each other as well. So the idea that one of us would host the exchange and the others wouldn't was fairly alien. So eventually we found this nice building called Tally House, which basically just sold space. It didn't try to sell you anything else like circuits or connectivity. And we put a 10 meg Ethernet hub. I'm sure anyone who's got an Ethernet hub in their bag with them today has probably got more capacity, more capability than the original Lynx hub. But the important thing is we connected it all together first. We did the engineering, we got the traffic flowing, all the governance stuff, the finance, the legalities, all of that stuff come later. And I think that's a really important principle. History of Lynx. This is not so different from a lot of other internet exchanges all over the world. After a year, we incorporated as a not-for-profit membership organization. We hired our first full-time employee a year later. By 97, we got 50 members. By 98, we were the first exchange to start going into multiple data centers and connecting them together. First exchange to deploy 1 gig traffic in 99. Got us up to 100 members in 2000. 2000, of course, was the dot-com silly year, but we decided to establish Exchange Point as a similar company, but on commercial principles in late 2000. Upshot is, around now, got the Lynx traffic stats here. These guys are pushing 105 gig of traffic through the switch fabric, more than that if you count the private internet. So it's quite an interesting challenge to keep that stuff going and flowing. Bigger picture, what are internet exchanges like in Europe? Typically, the ones that have been successful have kept the neutrality model. They've set up a non-profit membership organization. They're not in the hosting or colo business. And usually, they buy space from people who run the building, so they just run the switches. There's lots of exchanges, but there's probably about 4 or 5 major cities, London, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, Paris, where there are big exchanges that are pan-European ones. So if you want to go from, say, Ireland to Italy, you might go via Amsterdam. If you want to go from France to Sweden, you might go via Frankfurt or London. So what they're doing is they're keeping EU traffic in the EU, whereas the original mission was to keep domestic traffic within a particular country. Most countries have a domestic exchange as well. In fact, a lot of them have more than one now. But the big guys are again, all pushing several tens of gigs of traffic. Landscape's a little bit different in the US. Most of the big exchanges are operated by data center providers. So there's people at Equinix who are NASDAQ listed, Switch and Data who've got a facility in Cleveland amongst many other cities, Terramart down in Florida. And their primary business is selling space. They're certainly not in the ISP business because the ISPs are their customers and they don't want to compete with them. But generally the exchange, the Equinix call them IBXs, they're run as just one more service within that data center. It's a way of attracting people to the data center and extracting more money from them. Again, there's a focus on particular cities that are doing the national and international switching, San Francisco Bay Area, Washington, D.C., originally May East, various other things now, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. There's also quite a number of, there's a few other cities like Miami, Atlanta, Seattle, where there's quite a lot of traffic switched as well. But there's lots of little ones